So I've left this video a bit late to record today, but obviously I was waiting for the whole Rose Garden speech that was going to be done today, where we all had heard, of course, that Keir Starmer was going to come out and tell us, things are going to get worse before they get better. And to be honest, everyone who had been looking at this situation, anyone who knew anything about the last government, knew exactly what Starmer was going to have to come out and say. He knew exactly. We have been seeing this by numerous Labour ministers who are now in the position saying we thought we were getting, at least a somewhat tidy room. Turns out, of course, it's been an absolute disaster zone we've walked into, and now we've got to deal with that disaster. I don't think any other government or party would not also be saying the exact same thing, bar of course the Conservatives, who would be like, no, everything's all fine, ignore the fires going on behind us while they rage, everything is just fine. The guy playing the lute and the lyre over there in the corner, he's just fine, But as I've always said on the channel, we always want to be really positive when we talk about politics, because that's where I come from. I've always been and sort of maintained that when you come from that, when you look at how hopeful you can have good politics, it keeps you engaged, keeps you active, and of course, I think it keeps you very much hopeful. Now, that's not to say, of course, you shouldn't look at something and go, yeah, that's bad. And politics, you are going to have defeats, you are going to lose elections, you are going to lose votes, but no party in a democracy, we should stress, ever really has like a 100% perfect track record. So as we go into, I think, what we are going to see in October, I think we're also going to be, quite pleasantly surprised by some of the stuff that does get announced. I think we will be quite pleasantly surprised by some of the stuff that will go on when we see that vote. I am quite hopeful for a lot of the stuff that we will get see in the Rachel Reeves first budget when she is Chancellor. And we'll also see what she announces, where the money goes, who gets the new money, what taxes exactly there are going to be. We don't know, but we won't know, of course, until, October, till we get our first budget. So until then, we don't know what's coming. We've only got rumors, conjecture, and trying to sort of analyze what people like Reeves and Starmer have also been sort of saying as well. And I really want to go over one of the speech, well, at least a bit of the speech that Starmer had given in the Rose Garden, because I think it sort of is really good, because it sums up really, I think, the situation that they are in, and of course, how they are taking what I am interpreting, how they are going to sort of really going to fix this. So the first part he starts off is, I want to highlight, is we have done more in 7 weeks than the last government did in 7 years. And I have to highlight the fact Starmer's right on that. Starmer is 100% right on that. Like, beyond a shadow of a doubt, in 7 weeks, they have done more in 7 years. Probably done more, infinitely more, than since Rishi Sunak came to power, because it's very difficult to actually ascertain what bills the current, the previous Conservative administration under Sunak actually tried to do, because they had a lot, and then they sort of decided not to do a lot of those bills, or they pulled a lot of those bills, and then they went into the long grass. We already know, of course, in a couple of weeks' time, Parliament gets back into the swing of things. We already know that during the summer, Starmer and the rest of the sort of ministers have been sort of sharpening, polishing up the bills that they want to bring in. So I'm expecting, once Parliament goes back in, that we are going to see a big flurry of activity of putting all these bills into motion, into action, to start getting them through the system. This isn't going to be, where some MPs were complaining under Rishi Sunak that they had all this free time because the Conservatives just weren't putting any bills through. They just weren't putting any bills forward. And yet, we already know there's a number of bills ready to go the second Parliament reopens. So I'm looking forward to that. and what is going to happen. And this is exactly what I hope, that you had adults, sensible adults, now back in charge, who are actually, gonna do stuff, not a zombie government. But the other part I also want to add is I think he's right here to bring this up. He said, "I have to be honest with you. Things are worse than we ever imagined. I won't shy away from making unpopular decisions now if it is the right thing for the country in the long term. That's what a government of service means." And I think he's right to say that. I think he is absolutely right to say that. In power, you have to make some unpopular decisions. If you've ever been a leader or been in a leadership position, you know you have to make unpopular decisions. You know full well. And that is leadership. Something which I have been telling you, the Conservative Party, going all the way back to, well, Boris Johnson, Theresa May, probably even the disintegration really starting under Cameron, what leadership actually means. It means you have to take those decisions. And you mustn't be afraid to make those decisions. So we're seeing, the winter fuel allowance, while it isn't being taken away, which is a lot of the right-wing press is saying, is becoming means tested. Meaning that not all, pensioners are going to lose their winter fuel allowance, but those who can afford it, not going to have it anymore. And those who can't afford it are going to have access to that. So again, it's not being taken away for everyone, but you've had the right wing try to sort of make this an issue. You've seen Boris Johnson wade in here, try to sort of make that. Now, that is an unpopular decision. Dan Jarvis himself actually wrote about this very recently in the Barnsley Chronicle, saying, he said, all these pensioners are going to lose their winter fuel allowance. But he also brought up the fact of, look, public services, social services, care services were hugely suffering for this decision, for basically saying everyone gets the winter fuel allowance. Now, that money that they save from the winter fuel allowance can be then put into those services, can be put into those social services, put into the NHS, making sure that that provision, of course, is there. And it starts really from fixing it. Even going back all the way to when we first had this of, West Streeting coming in saying, look, the NHS is broken. And I am starting from this position of the NHS is broken. I am saying the NHS is broken because I'm going to sort of go and fix it. It is that different change of mindset going into government that we have been lacking. When something is broken, you've got to very often start with the fact, well, it's broken. And admitting it can be the very first thing you need to do in order to fix it. Because then you can look at, well, okay, why is it broken? Where are things going wrong? Where we can improve things? And so far, this does seem to be what Starmer's whole government is doing, their approach to everything. I think so far that is good. And the very fact you've got Starmer going, I'm taking a long-term approach. I'm not just going to, because the easiest thing to do in the world would be to go, you know what? We're not going to take away the winter fuel allowance. Like, that would be the easy decision. And bear in mind, if this was the Conservatives, given their track record, how we saw them act, that's what they would do. They would suddenly go, oh no, we're not going to take away this, because they saw what the reaction from the public was. Sometimes you have to make unpopular decisions, to do this. That's what being a leader is all about. And I'm really glad that Starmer is showing some leadership on this. But another thing I really want to bring up is, and I've sort of said this before, it's not my place to tell you who or who you shouldn't, be subscribed to. And I'm not going to do that. I've never done that unless they're like, a complete right-wing dipshit. But beware channels, and I will say this now, beware channels who, up until, shall we say, Labour came into power, shall we say, were singing the praises of people like Darren Jones, who they would look at him in a select committee and go, God, he's great, isn't he? God, it's absolutely wonderful. And now, of course, he's Rachel Reeves' junior minister, have now suddenly decided to turn on him. Why? Well, because they're in power now, and I think a lot of people opposition brained from 14 years of Tory government. I've said this before and I'll say it again. When your side is in power, you have a lot of opportunities. You can engage with your government like never before. This is not a Tory government. This is a Labour government. They are doing things different. The mindset is different. Some of the things they've done just in the first couple of 7 weeks, the previous Tory administration would never even do. But, oh, the Tories are still in power, they will claim. But of course, they're not. Labour won, Labour in power. We're going to see what they do in the next couple of weeks. We're going to see probably in the next couple of weeks all those bills go into action, start the first reading. We're going to get details on what these bills are going to be. It's going to be, I think, a very, very active time, probably in a couple of weeks' time. So I'm looking forward to it. The silly season will be officially be over, and we can, get into talking about some serious policy and stuff like that. So I'm looking forward to it. So, as always, thank you very much, as always. And of course, we'll see you all next time.